Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. It's Kate Richburg, and it is time for Free Tip Friday. I'm going to let all of the streams come on here and make sure that everyone can see me. If you can, give me those thumbs up and let me know if everything is looking and sounding good, even though you can't quite see me yet, but you will momentarily. So, I'm super excited for Emily's broadcast today. We're going to have a lot of fun, I think, and I can't wait to see how she shows us how to finish some of those other things. So let's make sure that everyone is here. Looks like everyone's good. So bear with me here, and here we are. Good morning, everyone. Or at least it's good morning for me here on the West Coast in California. I hope everybody's doing well. We're all doing well right here at beadshop.com. And I know that we are eagerly anticipating Emily, which is great. So, Em, give me the thumbs up. I know that you can see me. So let's bring in our Emily. And there she is.
Hi. Oh,
Hi, Em.
got a little off
There,
center. There you go. Hi.
there we go. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So before we get started, I wanted to show you something. I got a package from Drea today because Drea is going to be doing she has a sample that she sent to us. It's going to be a lot of fun
Cool.
that we're going to make. But Emily, can you see this?
Ooh.
Do you know what this is? This
I do.
is your favorite thing, a colored pen. And look at how many colors, you guys, this
I have
has. I
mine
know,
right
right?
there.
Right? So this was my Friday gift from Adria. So it's living right here on my work table. I love it so much. So anyway, I just wanted
I
to
have
share.
mine
It's
right
kind of
here.
silly.
Four
You've got
color pen.
yours. That's right, right? It's my
I love a
favorite.
four color pen.
Well, on the last episode of Kate and Emily do seed beads
When
together,
last we met,
when last we met, you showed us the beginnings and the basics of bead embroidery. We also have, as you guys have seen, we've got the really wonderful bead embroidery handout that you did that talks about all the stitches and stuff. So today, you're going to talk us through a little bit of finishing and stuff, right?
Mhm. Yep. I'm actually finishing on my feather, this is what I showed you the last time. I added some little sparklers around the edges, and I'm
Oh,
working on actually
great.
upside down, sorry. And I'm adding the border right now. I thought I was going to make this a pin, but actually I have a niece who I think this is going to go to for Christmas, and I
Oh, that'll
think
be
she
fun.
wouldn't maybe wear it as a necklace, but I think she would hang it in her car maybe, or hang it on a frame or something around her house. I think it's a
Yeah,
little bit big for that, but I think I'm going to
like a
make it with a
talisman.
loop at the top. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
I'll work more on that.
some more on that one. Well, I'm
Hmm.
gonna highlight your demo cam
Okay, let me bring it in.
if you're ready
I
for
am.
that. And we will, let me see if I can add that one. There we go. And I am gonna highlight that. There we go.
Perfect.
So we've got you right there on the work table, Em.
Yeah.
So it's looking, oh, and someone's also saying, Indora said it would look great as a hairpin.
You're right. It would absolutely look great as a hairpin.
Yeah.
And I don't think I have any big hair clip findings at the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
I do have some small ones. And I have my great Halloween costume, which I think I wore one year when we were together on Halloween. My ears that have
Your
clips
ears,
in them.
yeah, I have my ears now. It's somewhere. I was looking for them, but
Yep,
I couldn't tell you where my ears are. Alfie probably hid them so that I don't.
because he likes
I
them.
don't. I don't mock him as a cat.
No, no, of course not.
Yes.
It would make a lovely barrette,
Yeah, it really
for
would.
sure.
Yeah.
You know,
It would.
I don't know. It's funny with the feather. I kind of feel like it has to hang because of
Yeah,
the feather.
it's really gorgeous though. It
Yeah, it's
really
coming
is
right
great.
along. So that was what I
Um,
started working on most timely. And I did do the edging here, this picot border with doubled thread.
mhm.
And I'll let you in on a secret. Oh my God, I've got a knot up here by the
Oh,
knee.
ah,
So it's really agonizing when that happens. But the first thing to do is not to panic. Of course, no panic.
right. No panicking. Doesn't matter that thousands and thousands of people are watching you.
Oh, I'm not worried
Uh,
about that. Who
right. No,
cares?
I'm just teasing. I'm just
You
teasing
know,
you.
hundreds, tens. I
Hundreds.
don't know how many. I am
Well,
going to try and I'm going to give it a little bit of a try to pick this knot out. And I know
mhm.
that's like watching paint dry for everyone on the show, but
Well, I
I
I
use
want
my
to show
awl.
you. Oh yeah, you've got that there with your awl.
I think so. And just this happens to everyone. And I always kind of find it comforting when I see someone who I know is experienced have the same kind of struggles that I do. Look, I got
Mhm.
it out. Happy day.
Great job.
So one of the drags about using doubled thread is that you can get knots, and you have to be kind of zen about trying to keep track of that thread and keeping it
Mhm.
even and not allowing it to tangle as you're going along.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't use wax in this case. You could use like a thread conditioner, like Thread Heaven, if you wanted to, but I would worry about
Mhm.
the wax making discoloration.
Yeah, a little bit of a build up. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
just don't think it's
I'm
safe,
gonna
but
ask you to go a little bit more in the center of frame if you
what, like
would.
that?
Yeah, that looks great. And then as you're stitching, if you don't mind,
Oh no.
um, bring it forward just a little bit to the camera so we can see a little bit of the detail.
Yeah, and I'm not going to stitch on this one because it's too dark to see, I think.
Okay,
I'm going to
okay,
stitch on this other one over here. But I
okay,
just wanted to
great.
show you kind of where I was. And you know what
Sure.
I didn't ask last time, and or maybe I forgot. I'm sorry if I did. Um, can I add a page to the handout and maybe
Um,
put these stencils up, or we add another page in the thing?
yeah,
Um,
we'll just make it a second page, I think.
okay,
Make the stencils and then we'll send them to Drea and then
okay.
we'll
It
go
just
from
it
there.
occurred to me that maybe people don't feel confident drawing something, or
Yeah,
they just
yeah,
want to make
and we can
things
have the
exactly the
template.
same size.
Yeah.
So I'll do
There's
that this afternoon.
a quick question I wanted to get up here from Pam.
Sure.
Pam is asking, how is Thread Heaven different than waxing? I've never heard of it. Well, Thread Heaven is kind of an old school thread conditioner. It was kind of, I think, maybe a silicone based.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, Thread Heaven has gone the way of the dodo, and
right.
I think that the Thread Heaven people um, closed up shop a couple of years ago. Once in a while, you can still find it like on Etsy and stuff. And I think once you buy one Thread Heaven, you have like a lifetime supply. So I still have some, but it's a thread conditioner.
I was at the a quilting store not too long
That's
ago,
looking great,
and
man.
they did have
Uh-huh.
something called thread conditioner kind of hanging out at the front counter, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really investigate it too much, but I suspect it's close cousin to
It's
Thread
similar.
Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That looks
So I
great.
went
So now
away.
that's the one that you did on Wednesday. You started, right?
Right. Right. I had put in this row and this row and maybe that one. No, I don't think so. These guys. And I think I put these guys in. So I went ahead and finished it. These are the tiny cubes, which I just think are the coolest for embroidery.
Yeah,
Um,
the cube.
they
Yeah, lift it
really give
a little closer to us so we can see the detail on
they
those
really
cubes.
give kind of an interesting texture that the round beads don't give.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of a nice, it's nice to have that other evolution of textures.
Yeah,
And I went ahead
definitely.
and put in all my stop stitch pieces. This particular one didn't come out quite as evenly as the first one, so I ended up with some little dots. I like these hot pinks. I thought they were kind of fun to kind of throw in the little
Hmm.
nooks and crannies. I could probably put one more, maybe up there, maybe one there. Now, one of the things I didn't talk about last time was I actually found a couple of my stop stitches pieces to be a little bit loose. And that
Hmm.
was kind of near the end when I thought I was pretty much all done. So I actually back in with a needle and thread and went right through that stop stitch again. So I brought my needle and thread, started a new thread with a knot, brought my thread up from the bottom, came up through the 6, and I went across the 11 and then back down through the 6, and just kind of snugged it up a little bit. So if you find yourself with a little spot somewhere on your embroidery where you feel like it's a little bit loose, or you wished it was tucked down a little tighter, or you want to move it a little bit over to one side, you can absolutely go through there and kind of make those adjustments before you put the thing all together. You could even do it well after the fact, just knowing that it won't show from the back. Once you get the border on it and you're glued shut, that's a tougher time to have to make those changes, but it still can happen. Okay. If you had to, you could actually take your needle and thread and go in from the side and kind of work your way through there and then come back up in the beadwork somewhere. So here's a needle coming through way, way over into the beadwork. And so I can do that if I have that need to make that correction. So really don't worry too much, but try and get everything kind of nailed down as tight as you'd like before you glue on the back. Now this one, I'm going to finish the stitching and I'm going to do a little loop at the top of beads. And I'm going to actually do that right as I do the picot edging. I'm just going to stop. I will knot my thread a couple times. I'm going to make a loop of beads, and then I'm going to just start picoting again. That little loop will be what it'll hang from, and
Nice.
it makes that bail for the top of the pendant. But this one we agreed was going to be a pin, right? And I like a pin, a brooch. Kate
I do
likes
too. A brooch.
a
Yes.
brooch. And
I'm wearing a vintage brooch today as we speak.
You are wearing a brooch. You were wearing a really spectacular one on Wednesday, and I forgot to mention it.
My mom has actually given me a fresh one that I'm going to wear next week.
Oh
I'm
boy.
very pleased with it. Yes, indeed. But I digress. Please,
So
continue.
I like to think of putting my pin back in the upper third or quarter of my piece. If you hang it down near the middle, the front of, as you pin this on something, it's going to kind of flop around a little bit. So I don't think you can really go too high, but I do like to kind of have that distance where it's sort of supported in the middle and it's not going to kind of get away from you. I find putting pin backs in it's very simple. It's a very simple technique. I'm going to put my pin back down on my piece. I'm going to take my backing fabric. Now at this point, I'm going to decide what color is going to be on the back. And remember I said that these ultra suedes have just very slight differences front to back, not very major differences. I'm just going to pick this sort of warmer or lighter color, I think, to be the back side. This is what I like to do. I've cut it roughly to the same size as my piece, the fabric, and I'm going to press down on top of the pin back. It's very high tech, right? And what that's going to do is I'm going to make a couple of little indentations where that pin back is. Then I'm going to take my quite sharp scissors and I'm going to cut 2 little slits where those indentations are. Now, let me tell you, make those slits smaller than you think, because you can always increase them. But once you cut them, you're kind of done with that piece. And I'm just going to cut this one open just a teensy bit. Let's hope I didn't make a mistake. I don't think so.
And the ultra suede doesn't really stretch, but you don't want to you definitely want to make it tighter than you think.
Yeah, absolutely. Less of a slit there than you think you need, right? It's one of those less is more gigs. Cut it too big and you'll be sorry. So now I can put my pin back through. And there is a little trick to the way the pin back should go, which I think we talked about when we did the donut, but I'll mention it again because it's super frustrating if you do it the wrong way.
Right.
Open edge of the pin back. So this has an opening where the pin goes through. You want that facing down. That way, if this happens to untwist, the pin back is theoretically going to still stay on your piece. If you do it with that opening facing up, then the minute that fails, it could just fly right off, right? So that's what it looks like when you're ready to go. Neatly done, huh?
Very nice.
Kind of magical.
And that pin back, what's the width on that? It's the one that we carry. Isn't it about 1 inch?
This one, I think it might be a little bit smaller. I forget the size of the one we carry. Would you maybe get Gita or somebody to look it up real quick?
Yeah, I'll look real quick.
You know, if it's a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch,
It doesn't matter too much.
More than a ½ inch, I bet. Let's
Okay.
see. Oh, yes, it's about 3/4.
3/4. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So ½ inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch pin back. Any of those sizes would fit just fine.
Those all work.
Any of those would work great. So we're going to put some glue down. I, of course, went to open my glue the other day and went, oh, look, too late to get any more shipped to me from beadshop.com. So you could use a couple of options for glue here. You could use hypo cement or super glue. Really, either one would work just fine. With super glue, we're going to just squeege them out. Oh, I hope this one's not dried out too. Gosh.
And would you use, I know previously, Emily, we've used E6000.
Yes, you could use E6000 too.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of super glue.
Yeah. The E6000, I think, what I like about it is that it doesn't have a tendency to stain your ultra suede and stuff, right?
Yeah, and the hypo cement does not seem to do that much either. E6000 is great because it does tend to stay sort of on the flexible side. So any of these glues would work for this point. And this is what's nice about this particular project. We're going to have all of our threads kind of glued down in place. We don't have to worry that anything's going to untie when we go to trim our edges nice and close. So any of these little glues would do the job for us here. I do have to say that any of the super glues in the gel are just far superior than anything else. They don't run. They don't kind of get involved in everything else.
So you could use our zap glue that we carry.
Yeah, exactly so.
And the cool thing about the E6000 that we carry, you guys, is it comes in such small little tubes that you can grab several so that you don't run into this issue that Emily is having today with, oh, my glue's dried up, I'm out of luck.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. So you get your glue down, put your backing piece on, and give it a nice connection all around. And this holds everybody together. So at this point, we're going to make some trim. We're going to do some trimming. And really how tight you trim this, because you've covered up the threads, and the threads are within this border in any case. I just want to trim down till I have a scant, maybe a scant 1/8 inch-ish kind of size. I don't want to cut my threads that are in the beads, obviously, but I want to cut off that extra fabric that I really is more than I plan to use.
Yeah, so just so like you have a little lip running around the
right.
The
if you feel like you're making this into a patch, like you might sew it on a coat or something, on like on a jean jacket or on a bag, you could actually leave a little bit more because you're going to need that for sewing it down, and then do the border, and then you have a little bit of extra. So that neatens up all the extra stuff off that I had to work with, right?
Great. And can you put that a little closer to us, Em? Just a little higher to the camera so we can see that lip. That looks great. And is there glue where that edge is meeting?
Yep.
Okay. But it doesn't have to have, like those that are opened up, they're going to close up because of your picot. Is that right?
Right. So we could do a picot or the whip stitched border, which is what we did on the donut piece.
Yeah, and I have I'll show those a little bit later. I have them.
Okay. Yeah. So that whip stitch goes around and it covers up the edge completely. This piece is done in exactly the same manner. E6000 to glue down this cabochon, and then the same kind of stitches. There's some stop stitches, some couching, a little bit of peyote, and more couching around those nail heads. Right? Same.
Nice.
So I'm going to get a piece of thread ready here. I am going to double my thread, and this is kind of one of those times where I feel like the double thread really, it's what I need to have. I need to have it for the strength, and I want to have it so that since that edging is going to be what takes all the abuse, I want to make sure I have a sturdy edge. And of course, this is the thread that's the same color as my skin here, pinky mauve. that makes threading the needle a little challenging. Hang on one sec. I'm going to bring it a little closer to my eyeballs.
No worries, Em.
Haha, look at that.
There you go.
Focal distance is everything. So doubling up the thread also leaves you with a place where the eye of the needle will wear on the thread because it's not going to move. You know, when you use single thread, the needle moves along on the thread as you're working, right? But in this case, the needle is always going to be right in this one spot, and it's a place where the thread can take some wear. To be mindful as you're tugging and pulling on this, and you might even take a moment occasionally to look at it. You might have to change threads halfway through this and get a new thread. So I chose a piece of thread. I made a piece of thread about a yard long finished. So it's actually 2 yards of thread, a little longer than I would singled. But it's about a yard of thread doubled. I'm gonna cut off my tails because I don't need them. And, you know, I think the only thing I would do here about this border and edging is I would avoid starting on a corner. It's nice to actually kind of continue around the corner and finish off somewhere on the side. But where you start this is entirely up to you. It doesn't matter, not one iota. I think on the last one I did the 11,593, which is the Ceylon cream. And I'm going to do that one again on the edge of this. I think it looks very pretty with that kind of a brighter color.
Yeah, it brings it nicely, I think.
I think so too. You know, one of the color that I originally had thought about for this border was the one that got discontinued. And I was kind of going for something that looked a little bit more like the edge of the stained glass that this kind of was, you know, inspired by. So it was a darker color. But I'm actually kind of happy with this now. So I guess that's all a good thing.
All works out.
Yeah, yeah. So easy enough. I'm going to actually just take my needle and I'm going to open up the side a little bit, right? I'm going to go through both the paper and the front layer of my ultra suede, pull this up, and this will pull my knot end of my finishing thread in. I'm going to press it in there. And then I'm going to do the picot around the edge. For the first stitch of the picot, I need 3 beads, okay, on my needle. How are we doing, Kate?
And just as a reminder, looks good. Just as a reminder, real quick, Emily stitched on the ultra suede is the top, and then she has that paper, that cardstock in there as a stabilizer. So when Emily's referring to the that's in between the 2 pieces of ultra suede.
Right. And the paper gives me a little stability also for this point. So I'm going to bring my needle through all 3 layers now, treating them as one. And I'm going to pull through those first 3 beads. And they're going to sit a little
raise it just a little, if you would. Yeah, there you go. Great.
It's going to sit a little funny. It's going to sit sort of across the gap there. To finish this part of the stitch, I'm going to go through that very first bead, the one that's on the back side, kind of on the back of this piece. But it was the first bead I put on my thread. I'm going to pull it up. Now you're going to see that the picot starts to sit up on the edge. There's still something here on the front because when I come around and finish my last bead, I'm going to stitch up and through that last picot bead, this guy. Okay? So I'm going to pick up 2 now from here on out, all the way around. I'm going to put my needle through back to front again, as always, with bead embroidery. And I'm about a bead's width away from the first step. If you are a little too far or a little too close, it won't really make too much difference. But you want to kind of pick one and stick with it. It's a little bit like tension. I'm going to go up through that last bead, and then you're going to see this start to kind of stand up on the edge, which is very super satisfying.
Yeah, it's a nice look for sure.
Right? Catch that bead back there. Stand up. Oh, look at that.
Nice.
God, I love it. I love it. It's to me, this just kind of puts this is definitely the icing. I usually refer to fringe as dessert. When you make a really nice piece of bead weave woven piece and it's all done and you're like, okay, what does it need? It needs fringe. And this is a little bit of
Always,
that fringe,
always needs fringe.
and the fringe it's fun. You kind of did all this work and then you get to add this like decoration at the end. That's just the best. I was actually thinking about doing starting to work on some Christmas things, some Christmas ornaments and stuff. My family and the adults of our family, we give Christmas ornaments to each other every year. And you get kind of brownie points, bragging rights if you made them. And
Oh, I
so
like that tradition.
I've been making ornaments for years. Last year I made macrame ones, and gosh, I don't know what I'm going to make this year. I gotta start hunting up. But I've
Yeah,
already
better
started
get
my
on it
Christmas.
more.
I already started my Christmas knitting. I'm about halfway through my Christmas knitting. So, Kate, I'm
Wow.
making those Outlander cowls.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
nice.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh.
Waha.
I only added one bead here.
What happened, Em?
I only picked up one bead. Oh, yeah. I only picked up one bead instead of two. So instead of trying to unstitch this by going through point of the needle first, I'm going to pull this back, pulling the eye of the needle to come out as neatly as possible and as cleanly as I can.
And usually that will
Ah,
make things emerge unscathed, right?
yes,
It's a good
absolutely.
trick.
Now, you know what has happened in the past, and this is, I think, also a problem with doubled thread. If you have doubled thread and for some reason your thread breaks, or you have the needle comes off, right? So if the thread fails up here somewhere, don't worry, it's fixable, and it really means you're going to get a new thread out of it, which is perfect. So I would take my two ends that are kind of broken now and thread them through the needle if I can, or thread them one at a time through the needle and tie them off. So bury them in the work somewhere and then bring out a new needle and thread. It's not the end of the world. It's a little disappointing when it happens, but it's not the end of the world. And it's a little harder to do than if you have a single thread. If your single thread fails, breaks somewhere along the length, it's fairly easy and straightforward to correct. But
Now,
it just goes right along.
when you're stitching this, Em, and
Mm-hmm.
again, if we can bring it just a little higher, just to see you put a couple of those in place, kind of closer up to the camera. Perfect. Janice was asking, and if you could take a couple of stitches kind of close up so we could see that as you're doing it. Janice was asking about recommendation colors for fringe. Do you have kind of a rule of thumb? Do you like it contrasting? Do you like it matching? Any thoughts about that?
I think mostly that the fringe is going to speak back to the piece. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use the colors that I've already used. It might be a place where I would incorporate, if I've used brass in my piece someplace, I might bring in another shape of bead, like a shadow and a temple, and that if I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
used those ones already. But I think mostly I would let my fringe kind of speak back to my piece in some fashion. And it might be that you are going to re-emphasize a color. So you're using a color that is not used quite so much in the piece, and you want to bring it back as a highlight. I think for me, that's where I would go. But then there are so many choices to make about length and complexity. And is the fringe straight at the bottom? Is it tapered? Does it taper from left
Mm-hmm.
to right? Is it pointed? It's kind of a big subject, you know.
I have a piece here, if you don't mind me sharing,
No,
while
go
you're
right ahead.
doing that.
Yeah, yeah,
I have a couple here that I want to share with you guys. First, and Janice might get, hopefully Janice won't be mad that I'm showing this, but she sent us this yesterday and I want to share it with everyone. She's starting
sure.
to do a little bit of bead embroidery and Janice really hasn't done much yet, but I wanted to flash this on the screen, which I thought was really great. And you can see how she really effectively used that stop stitch
Yep.
and her bugles there. And she also looks like she's kind of going for a little bit of freeform as she's just kind of adding things as she goes along. So
Yes.
I think that looks great, JP.
Yep.
I love it.
JP also wanted
And
me to.
then, uh-huh.
JP asked me the other day too about getting your beads kind of tight and lined up, and I did want to kind of briefly show that again. I've got some scrap and stuff here of pieces that I've got,
Hmm.
and I can certainly show that another time just to make sure everybody kind of gets comfortable with that. I just wanted to get around a
I
corner
think,
here.
yeah, I think Janice was like, wait, what? Oh, Janice, do not be. Janice is like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. JP,
Oh,
I thought
shut
it
it.
looked great, and I wanted to share it. So, so
I
too
was
bad.
I was
Don't
actually
send
really
it if you don't.
tickled.
Yeah, I think it's great. I thought
I
it
was
looked
tickled
great.
that she
It's a
jumped right
great
in on
start.
something she hadn't done before. You know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love it.
All right, so I'm going to turn around the corner here. And it's going to go just the same as it did on the other sides. Not a problem. So see here, I have two threads. I had a little bit of a loop there. I'm going to make sure I correct it before I get any farther along.
Hmm.
All right. And one more, just to prove that I can turn that corner. Look at that. Right around. Okay.
Oh yeah, great. And so you just turned the corner,
Yeah.
right? That's it. I mean, there was
Yeah.
no, don't make a big production number.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. You know, this could also be done with 11s and an 8. We
Right.
could do a
So
bait
the 8 is the
11 at the
picot.
base and
Uh-huh.
an 8 at high. It
Uh-huh.
could be really fun. All
Yeah.
right, let me just go over that question that JP had, I think, real quick.
Yeah.
Let me grab a needle. Oh, my needles are way over there. I just cleaned out my pin cushion the other day because I couldn't actually get my pins in it anymore. There were too many things sticking up, and it
Yeah,
was
my pincushion was
full.
is a little yeah.
I remember the pin cushion you made that was on the camel. Was it a camel or an elephant?
Yes. I have one of each.
No.
There's one that's an elephant and one that's a giraffe, actually.
Oh, oh. I have a thing. I have a little bit of a thing for camels.
So,
So,
yeah.
all
Are
right.
you
So
set?
here's
Okay,
a
you're set to go there. Okay.
yeah. Here's a practice piece, right? A sampler, if you want to think of it that way. And I'm going to use a little bit of darker colored thread. That way you can see it against that light background. And my friend Cheryl was watching last on Wednesday too, and she said she was going to get to work on her feather. So I hope she's with us again today. I
Yeah,
don't
it's a
always get
lot.
to look at. Pardon?
It's so fun. I mean, these projects are so bite-sized,
Oh yeah,
that if you're not used to, like like with Janice, who was being silly about, about me sharing her piece, I think it looks fantastic. You can just like give yourself like a little 2 by 2 square or a 2 by 3 square, and you're off to the races. So
yeah.
don't be afraid to jump in because it's not a huge investment in time.
And see, this is one that didn't make the cut. I drew on it, but I didn't care. I didn't love it. So I'm just going to flip it over and use the other side.
Oh,
Easy,
terribly clever.
right? So let's just talk about kind of getting those beads together in line. So I have a dark thread on a light background, and I'll pick some medium colored seed beads. So that'll help. We can do couching or we can do backstitch. And both of them have the same, kind of the same process. I'm going to lay the thread down across the beadwork, across the fabric, okay, with the beads on it. So see how all the beads are sitting up right on their edges? This is how I want to align them so that when I bring my needle back through the fabric, the backside, those beads have the right amount of thread to hold them in place, right? There's no gaps, but they're also not too crowded. So if I was doing backstitch, I'd come up about in the middle. So if you have 8 beads between 4 and 5, if you have 9 beads, which is what I think I put on here, curses, in the middle somewhere. And then go through some of the beads to the back to the sort of beginning, heading out direction, the direction of travel, and pull that up snugly. Okay. So on the back side, that's what it looks like. There's where the needle went through the fabric. Thread came down through from the beads, and then the back stitch goes through them again. Okay. Again, to add more beads to this, I'm going to I'll pick up an even number this time and stop making myself crazy. Let's see. There's 8.
And can you again lift it just a little bit higher, Em? Sorry to keep asking you, but
That's okay. Thank you for reminding me. I forget.
No,
So
I
let's
know
just say, for instance, that
easy to forget.
these are my 8 new beads, and I get them all lined up, but I don't push them back to that previous grouping, and I stitch through with some space. Now my beads could be kind of flopping around. Actually, I did a pretty good job of that even without trying. But they may be showing the holes a little bit or moving around and being kind of loose. So I could undo this stitch by taking my needle off my thread and pulling the thread out. And I can also back stitch it and help it hold it in place. Okay.
And when you're going in a line like that, Em, are 8 beads about as long as you want to go?
Kind of depends. I would say 8 to 12 is about enough at a time. If you're couching, you can actually do more. So
Right,
you can have a longer row of beads. Let's say, for instance, let me get my needle to the back side of the fabric here.
And the needle, Beth is asking, what kind of needle are you using?
I'm using a 10 sharps. So it's a short needle.
Yeah.
It's a little bit stiffer. I still tend to bend them, but it is a shorter needle. So I'm going to put on a Miyuki Pearl, one of my favorite beads of all time.
I know that Miyuki Pearl is just
they're really
delightful.
Yep. Pause while I rethread my needle. Endless problem.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Always something, Em. Always something.
Dang it, Kate. Would you just make it so it's not so? So here's my stop, right? My stop bead, stop stitch. That's a very a very short fringe. Punch it back through. Now, if this were a little bit loosey-goosey and I had moved on and this was still kind of floppy like this, I could certainly come back at any moment. Go back up through that Miyuki Pearl.
And again, a little towards the center, Em.
Through the 11. And back down into the bead, into the fabric and the cardstock, and pull it up snug. And that will help it from being floppy or kind of floating around too much. Okay.
Now, you just mentioned that that stopper bead is like a short piece of fringe.
It
So
is.
you could make that whatever is coming out of that 6/0 or whatever bead that is.
Yep.
You could make that as long as you wanted and even put something on the end like a dragon scale or a drop or something, right?
You could make a loop of beads.
Yeah.
So there's a Miyuki bead, Miyuki pearl, and 5 11s. I'm going to skip the last one, go through those 4 11s, and back through the Miyuki pearl.
So that one that you skipped acts as the stopper.
Right. So now I have a antenna
Nice.
sitting up. But a bunch of those in group will be very interesting. In fact, I have it here on my handbag that I made many years ago.
Yeah, will you show us, will we have time to take a look at some of your finished pieces that you've
Oh,
got
and
there,
you know
Em?
what? I meant to grab my bracelets. Can you give me a moment and I'll grab them?
Yeah, and let me, while you're doing that, I'll show a couple of pieces. I'll highlight my board here for just 1 second. I realize that my equipment isn't. Oops. I muted you, Em. There we go. Oh, I'm still getting a little bit of feedback from you. Let's see. Are we good? There we are. I'm going to go ahead and add this real quick because I want to show you guys. These are from Emily's last when we did the bead embroidery a while back. So bear with me here just a second and I'm going to highlight these here. These are pieces that we did from, they're on the bead embroidery page, on the bead shop project page. And these are the ones that Emily was referring to that we did a while back. It's with the 40 mm pie, um, the semi-precious pie disc. This one's in sodalite, this one's in pyrite. And you can see the pin backs are here on the back. And you can see the fringe, and the recipes are on the website. But you can see it's the edging peyote stitch that Emily did here, which was really fun. And so this was the other one, that blue one. And you can see right in the middle of that disc, we added just a little bead and then some other little stitching there. So this is one, then I went kind of out on a limb like I do, as you do, and I made this one that has the sodalite pie. I glued an I Ching coin on the top, and then I went kind of crazy. You can see it's the same size as this pie, but I covered it actually quite a bit. And I used that little shadow bead. I used, I think, a gunmetal, the galvanized silver, and then my dangles are coming out from the middle. And so um, I think what I did was I stitched through the backing because you glue this pie on a backing and stitch around it. And so I just came through and I just did the drops. And you can see, like Emily did, I just, on the stopper, I did a little round hishi and then came back up. I wear this all the time. I love this thing. I feel like it has a little bit of I don't know, like I unearthed it in somewhere ancient. All right, you're back on the mic there.
I'm back here waiting and ready for you.
Okay,
I
so I'll go
did
ahead
a few
and
stitches.
okay, I'll spotlight
Yep.
your demo camera here, so bear with me here just a second. Here you go, and you're good.
How about that for some bead embroidery on a bracelet?
Wow, look at that. So
Right.
talk us through that. What's that all about?
So this is I think a piece of tiger iron. I think that's a tiger iron cabochon.
A
Glued down to
cabochon.
ultra suede with bead embroidery filling all of the ultra suede.
And then on the back, if we can look at the reverse of that, you
Hmm.
then glued another piece of ultra suede over that,
Correct.
and then
And then I
and then
used
did the edging.
whip stitching edging, and I incorporated a giant snap.
That's great.
So when you put it on, you just overlap the ends
And
and
it's nice and flexible.
yeah.
And
So this does
feels
not
pretty
have paper in
comfortable
it.
to
This
wear.
has the horsehair
Hmm.
from the fabric store in it, the Pellon.
Okay. You just
Why?
answered Cindy Brooks' question.
Sorry,
Perfect.
faster than I could get to it, Cindy Brooks. Ugh, gosh, doing
Nice.
things at arm's length on the computer is hard to see.
So what's that second one that you've got going on there?
Okay, just wanted to get this one clasped. There we go. Oh. So this one is vintage Japanese scarab cabochons
Oh yeah,
with
those
Delica.
Scaraby. Yeah, would lift it up a little bit for us, Em, if you would. There you go. And how are those connected?
They're actually peyote stitched together.
Oh, look at
So
that.
this one I didn't have room for the backing, so I left the backing plain. I didn't have any room for any whip stitching or picot stitching, so I left the back plain, glued on with E6000 circles of ultra suede, stitched a loop to attach my clasp. You recognize that old school clasp, Kate?
Yeah, right. Old school.
Right?
Jessamport's called. She wants her old clasps back.
I know. I should send her a picture.
Yeah.
So this is peyote stitched the way we did the donut, the pie stone. And as the peyote stitch came off of the cabochon, I did increases in my peyote stitch. So more than one bead where normally one would go. And this is done with Delicas, cylinder beads, just 2 colors.
It looks really great.
Fun, huh? And then I made each one separately and then peyote stitched them together. So
Peyote
just let
stitch them together.
the
That's
peyote stitch join them.
fantastic. So, if you wouldn't mind, bringing, I know that some people may have missed our Wednesday broadcast and they can go back and watch it,
Sure.
but would you talk us through your bag one more time
Oh, sure.
and just talk about some of those stitches, and
Mhm.
that's what we'll end up with today.
Okay. Let me pull back up just a tiny bit with my camera. There we go. It's a little easier to see the whole thing. So this is done on fabric with a paper backing, which is still in place underneath, right? All the same stitches that we've been talking about. This is stop stitch with making into fringe, right? So giving it a butchie or tree.
I really like that stop stitch and fringe.
I do too. It's fun, isn't it? And
Yeah.
these are done with these loops. These are done with couching. So these Swarovski marguerites are held on with stop
Oh
stitch as
yeah.
well, right?
Nice.
More stop stitch, lazy stitch. So groups of beads side by side, and you can make very nice checkerboards with lazy stitch. You know, with a lot of different stitches, or a lot of different beads, if you're going to do this, if you want to plan for this, do a little sample first, because the bead sizes themselves may give you kind of fits and starts. They really need to be very close in size. If you're going to do this in black and white, for instance, checkerboard, you will learn very quickly that black and white beads are not the same size. Even though they say
Right.
they are, they're actually a little bit different. White beads tend to be a little wider, black beads a little narrower. You attach, pieces, loose buttony pieces or charms. It's just stop stitch. I have some little hearts down here.
Could you
More
raise
stop
those
stitch
up just a little
embellishment.
bit,
Sorry?
so we could see those up close? Could you raise it up just a little? Yeah, there we go. We can really see those charms now.
Yeah.
Really
This is
pretty.
actually done with stop stitch that's then joined together. So I did a row of stop stitch all the way around this charm and then added a bead to the tip as I pulled them all together.
Oh, nice. And
Right?
that is what Faye's asking. That's just a batik fabric that you use
Yes.
for the
Yeah, the
background. Is that
petite
right?
fabric.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably not choose that again. It's a little bit thin and too easy to get puckery results from. Um, copper bugle beads, vintage glass bugle beads, old Venetians maybe,
Yeah,
and
really
more
beautiful.
pouching. Um, all these guys.
All right. Well, any final words, Em, that you want to add to
I'm
this
super excited
font
to
of
see.
wisdom?
I'm super excited to see what people make with this technique and if they kind of jump in and do a piece or two. You know, we were talking last week just briefly about using a mix for this, and I had some
Mm-hmm.
hair festival that's been kind of hanging out on my work table for a while, a year, because it was last year when we did that mix. And I took a little time, meditatively separated it by bead, and it just went fairly quickly. You know, it took me maybe a half an hour to do that. I think I have enough beads here to do a pair. And so I had some green ultra suede and I sketched a little pear shape. It felt a little bit big, so I actually made a second one a little smaller. So I'm actually going to go ahead and stitch a pear out of Pear Festival.
Oh,
And
that'll be cool.
I'm debating. I think I'm going to actually make it like a half a pear, so it's like an open, like there's a slice taken out of it. So that's
Right,
going to give
right,
me
right.
some borders and some shapes to work around. I think that will give me the idea that I'm looking for. You know, sometimes when you see a kind of a botanical drawing of something, there'll be like an opening
Right,
where it's been sliced open, right? And
right.
we'll have the seeds showing, and that'll give me some shapes to kind of work around.
Yeah.
Maybe that needs to
And
be
I
down.
think once you start kind of jumping in with your ideas, then the
Yeah.
ideas just continue to flow
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'll definitely
Yeah.
get more. This was some old ultra suede scraps that I picked up at a thrift store. I picked up a coat that I was never going to wear, but I liked the color of it and it was very inexpensive. So it's another good source for ultra suede scraps if you need them. Um, but I think this will be it's a good background color for this. And I love the idea of having a little pear pin out of pear bead embroidery. I think it'll be really nice. And again,
Yeah, the
right
pear
side, you know. But if you
is
like, I'll
you
put
did.
these up on. I'll put all these
So
on a
it's totally
page
fun. That's great.
so that you can use them.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Well, I'm going to show you a final look here,
please.
Em. So let's get you. I'm going to
I'm gonna move my camera
get
over.
this one out. There we go. And let me get out of my solo. There we are. All righty. Well, that was great.
It
It was
was
a great
fun.
stroll down Bead
Yep.
Embroidery Lane. Um,
Hmm.
you guys can watch the first episode. This is part two of a two-parter. You can watch the episode from this past Wednesday, the first part of this one. So it's a great one to go hand in hand. You can also, of course, find everything that Emily has worked with right on our website at beadshop.com. You can find all of the information on the project and the products from today's broadcast on our website. And of course, sign up for our newsletter so that you don't miss anything. We've got lots of fun stuff coming up before the end of the year that you're not going to want to miss. And of course, you can always find us on social at beadshop.com, the bead table. And of course, you can subscribe if you're watching this right on our YouTube channel. Just look below, right this feed, and you can subscribe at beadshop.com so you don't miss an episode. And please, if you wouldn't mind sharing those likes, those thumbs up, all of that really helps us to for other beaters to find. So, Em, thank you so much. It was good times had by all, I think.
Yes.
I certainly enjoyed it.
Yep. And
Um,
everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a lovely Christmas and New Year's. I won't see you again until the following year, 2021, which has
yeah,
gotta be better than 2020 was.
2020. Yep.
2020
But
was
we've got Emily was yeah, a little bit of a dumpster fire, as I like to say. But you guys, we will have Emily back. She is cooking up some things for the new year.
mm.
And Em, I will certainly talk to you offline, but thank you so much as always this year for your wonderful projects. It's been
Well, thanks for
delightful
having
to
me.
see you.
I really always have a good time.
Yeah, it's good times. And maybe 2021 we'll be able to be in the same room again. It'll be good.
Your lips to God's ears. Come on.
That's right. Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you ever so much, you guys. And I will see you on Wednesday with a fantastic project from Janice. She has a brand new Odyssey that she's calling Rainbow Odyssey. And it's new, it's amazing. It's you guys are going to love it. So stay tuned for your newsletters for that. And then we've got a lot of great projects coming up before the end of the year, so you won't want to miss it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a safe weekend. And you guys, now more than ever, it is so important to remember that we need to keep our social distancing as we knew, right? We knew that as the winter comes, our COVID cases are climbing, and we want each and every one of you to stay safe. So, what do? We wash our hands, we wear our masks, we keep that social distancing. We're together here for the holidays. Make those creative connections as best as you can because we want everybody here for 2021. So, I will see you on Wednesday with Janice's project. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend.